There were a couple key moments at WWE Night of Champions 2025 on Saturday in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, that could change the course not only of the short-term WWE, but also the long-term in WWE. Could it change WWE forever? Well, we'll see about that. But we know for certain that it may change WWE SummerSlam. You had, I think, two very key developments. Two big teases, if you will. You guys know we like those here at the channel. To lead us in the direction of something huge that could happen at SummerSlam. We know the card was bookended by the King of the Ring finals match between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton and the undisputed WWE Championship match between CM Punk and John Cena. If we start with Cody and Orton, it was Cody getting the win, just as we all expected, based on how this thing had unfolded. I said going back at Money in the Bank, I thought that by Cody pitting Cena, he was going to be the person who faced Cena, whether or not he won the King of the Ring. He had to fight through several other men, including Jey Uso and including Randy Orton. And we said going into this match that it felt like a great opportunity to start to put the wheels in motion for not just perhaps a Randy Orton heel turn, but also looking ahead at what could happen with Cody down the road. You guys know if you've watched the channel, we did the video, the most recent video on this channel, we did on Thursday, talking about the interview that Cody Rhodes did with Kay Adams and saying that he felt like he had another maybe 1 year, maybe it's 3 years of this big babyface run, of the person that's getting cheered and the guy who's always playing the good guy, right? Well, we saw some things unfold in the match because it was something where you could tell they were putting the wheels in motion, not just for Randy Orton, but for Cody Rhodes. And we saw how it played out, right? Randy Orton had the opportunity to take out Cody Rhodes with the punt. He was going to punt Cody's head into oblivion. But he hesitated. Not once, not twice, but several times, right? Orton was hearing the voices in his head. It took him a little bit, but he finally said, all right, I've got to do this, right? Randy Orton decided that he was going to finally do it. Well, Cody was able to counter at that point. And then what happened? Orton tries to use a little bit more of the shenanigans, right? Where you've got him bringing the chair into the ring in a very cerebral move to get the referee to remove the chair, which in turn allowed Orton to remove the top turnbuckle pad. And then it wasn't Orton taking advantage of that turnbuckle pad being off there. It was Cody Rhodes, who at the first opportunity had his chance and he struck. He was the Viper here, right? Where he threw Randy Orton rib first into that exposed turnbuckle. Then he hits the crossroads. Cody is your King of the Ring winner. Well, we said, going back to WrestleMania 41, the next time Cody had an opportunity to basically finish someone off, he had to do it because he made him look silly at WrestleMania 41 the way they did it with John Cena and having him lose the championship in that fashion. Well, Cody this time around did exactly what we thought that he should do, and that is it didn't matter. It was by any means necessary. Cody took advantage of an opportunity that was presented to him. Then if you go after the match, what happened? Well, Cody had the promo, and he made the little comment, about how I know that you people, don't necessarily like me beating your favorites, right? And that's where some of the boos come in. And you saw some of them come in again for Cody during this match. And so Cody is basically saying, I know what everyone thinks, but no one's going to stop me from taking the ball back, right? He's going to take the ball back at SummerSlam. And so you had a little bit more of that edge there from Cody, where he's letting a little bit of that frustration come out of not only maybe being booed here in this match against Randy Orton, but also, as we said, the tide was turning a little bit at WrestleMania 41, just as we thought it could in a match with a figure like John Cena, who was in his final year in WWE. So if we take everything from that with Cody Rhodes, and then we go to John Cena versus CM Punk, and we know this was one that going in, I don't think we expected a 30-minute classic necessarily just between these two themselves. You had to think there was going to be some way that some shenanigans were going to be involved, especially knowing that Mr. Money in the Bank, Seth Rollins, was out there. I know not a lot of people were necessarily pleased with that main event and how it ended. It was going along great when it was just maybe John Cena and CM Punk for a lot of people. But once you started to have kind of the interference, I know that sort of turned some people off a little bit. But I can't say it was that unexpected, knowing that, again, this was treated like an event that felt like, when you really think about it, the stakes involved. This was a very high-stakes event, which we're kind of used to with these Saudi Arabia shows now, whether it's, seeing that in Crown Jewel over the years, and introducing the Crown Jewel title and the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring that have been there. So we knew this was going to be a show where you wanted to have all pretty much your heavy hitters there on the show. So having Seth Rollins come out when he has the opportunity to potentially cash in, but it wasn't that easy, was it? Because it wasn't CM Punk thwarting Seth Rollins' opportunity to cash in. No, it was actually John Cena, who, as we said, they've added these layers in all these matches recently. Each one you've added a little bit more of that different dynamic with Cena, right? Go all the way back to the match with Orton at Backlash. There really wasn't a lot of that, was there? At the time, it was sort of still that fresh John Cena as the heel. He had won the title the month prior, or several weeks prior, at WrestleMania 41, which, of course, had come off the big turn at Elimination Chamber. So we were still kind of fresh in the run there. Well, since then, you've had the match with R-Truth. We saw a little bit of that hesitation from John Cena in that match, right? We've seen the wheels turn a little bit from Cena as he's listened to the crowd and hearing kind of the alternating chants and those kind of things. Well, in this match, you had the same thing, where they had those alternating chants, but John Cena decided to be somewhat of the hero here of saving the opportunity. Charles Robinson comes flying down to the ring, speed running, and the man gets just completely shoulder blocked by John Cena, who takes him out. And then you get a little bit of the argument between Cena and Seth Rollins. And of course, that led us to another big moment in this show, where John Cena, habit, he goes out, he grabs the championship. He's going to do the same thing he's done to the other guys, right? And he's going to use that title just like he's done against Cody, just like he's done against Orton, just like eventually he decided that he had to do something to R-Truth. He couldn't just, he thought about it, but he had to basically take advantage, use some nefarious means to get the win. So Cena goes out, grabs the title, but then what? Cena can't do it this time. He really thinks about it. It's the same sort of visual presentation you saw when R-Truth was sitting there right in the middle of the ring. The wounded duck. CM Punk was right there for the taking. But Cena didn't do it this time, right? And so that is sort of the next step with John Cena not doing it. Now, we know what happened from there. Cena did what? He took advantage of the opportunity eventually. He went to the evil, orgasmic face that John Cena seems to make. And what did he do? Same thing he did at Elimination Chamber. He took advantage of a Seth Rollins attack on CM Punk, and Cena took advantage to get the win to retain the championship. But it wasn't 95% bad Cena, 5% good Cena, right? Like, it was way more closer to the middle here in terms of the way this match played out. You had all the callbacks between Cena and Punk. These two were just basically fighting it out. You didn't have a lot of those underhanded tactics in the match until things got chaotic with the interference. But in the end, it was kind of the same setup. Cena took advantage of something from Rollins, which is exactly what happened when we got to the final two at Elimination Chamber between Cena and Punk. But, again, you could see that there were the things where if the wheels were in motion a month ago, they're even more in motion now for John Cena, where the crowd is turning a bit in the direction of Cena. So, we say all that to say what? Clearly you see what's going on here. That Cody Rhodes now all of a sudden sort of found himself in somewhat of a similar situation as John Cena earlier this year, where when Cody had the opportunity, knowing what's at stake, to get closer to the championship, Cody did what? He took advantage of a not-so-babyface type scenario to ultimately get the win. I know you can say, well, Orton's the one who took the turnbuckle pad off, but it's Cody Rhodes. He shouldn't want to win that way, right? Because he's the 100% clean-cut babyface. Maybe not so much anymore. And so now we've set up some interesting things here that involve, obviously, Cody Rhodes and John Cena, who are now going to have their rematch at SummerSlam. But it also involves Randy Orton. Because this whole thing now, I think we're going to see play out into two very fascinating possibilities. Randy Orton coming out of this is going to now perhaps move into the Kevin Owens role. If you think about it, we don't really know whenever Kevin Owens got injured what all that threw kind of a loop for in terms of their plans. But if you think about the whole story, it was all about KO was right. That's what KO tried to keep convincing Randy Orton, that what he was seeing with Cody Rhodes was not this completely innocent, 100% clean-cut babyface, right? KO was trying to tell us that Cody all along had been someone that Randy Orton should not trust. So if Randy Orton was hearing the voices in his head during this match, well, the voices in his head after this match are going to be the voice of Kevin Owens. And everything that Owens was saying about Cody. And we saw Cody take it to a different level, as we said, against Kevin Owens earlier this year at the Royal Rumble. And so now, we're probably going to get that Randy Orton snap. You saw the way they did kind of the frame and everything of Orton standing behind Cody just seething when Cody was cutting that promo after the win as King of the Ring. And so now I think you're going to get, a Randy Orton who, whether it happens now, whether it happens maybe when Cody regains the title, we've got to get back to this because they left a lot in the tank here coming out of this match between a Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton feud that we've all been waiting on for however long now, right? But at the same time, if that momentum is turning a little bit for Randy Orton in terms of how he's viewing Cody Rhodes, we also know that the momentum is turning in terms of how fans are viewing John Cena. And so, what about the setup that we're now going to have at SummerSlam, where I think you're going to get a pretty likely scenario here where Cody Rhodes and John Cena will be standing in the middle of the ring in the main event of Night 2 of SummerSlam, and you are going to see, I think, the crowd start to really turn in the direction of John Cena, just as we've started to see that more and more. And when the boos start to rain down on Cody Rhodes, is it possible that WWE is going to expedite this whole thing to where now we've seen some of this come out with Cody? Now maybe Kevin Owens was right. Now Randy Orton's got to think, was Kevin Owens right? And now are John Cena and Cody Rhodes almost in different type scenarios heading into this where they have flipped spots basically from where they were several months ago? It's not all the way in that direction with Cody yet. And I don't know that we're going to get there necessarily at SummerSlam. I've seen some people bring up the idea that maybe we do get a double turn at SummerSlam. I don't know if that happens. But I think there is at least a possibility that the way this thing worked at Night of Champions and the things you saw coming out of the Cody versus Orton match and how they're going to tie into the momentum that now John Cena has heading from the dark side to the good side, which we know he's got to get to by the end of the year, I think it sets up for one of the sort of more fascinating dynamics we've seen in WWE in recent years heading into SummerSlam. Because I think the atmosphere is going to be everything, but I do think now, when you see the layers that have been added to this from the story standpoint of having Cody Rhodes do kind of a heel-type thing to win a match, meanwhile John Cena has gone back to kind of doing more of the heroic-type things to perhaps try to win a match the way he wants to win it, although ultimately he gives in to the dark side. Still, you're seeing these different sort of characteristics come out in both of these guys, and they're both driven by different things at this point. Cody is driven by wanting to get the championship back. Cena is driven by wanting to be the champion when he retires. And I think that for all the things we said and maybe the disappointments we had of the WrestleMania 41 match, with No Rock, with Travis Scott, all that stuff, I think this is the one that maybe really is going to deliver in terms of Cody Rhodes versus John Cena, because I think these two moments that just happened to start the show and end the show could be the biggest things that could lead us in a pretty wild direction here of a potential Cody Rhodes heel turn, potential Randy Orton heel turn, by the way, too. But how we get John Cena back to the good side, this may be it. And little did we know, it may come at the cost of whatever's going to happen now with Cody Rhodes moving forward. So, you guys let me know what you think. What did you think about those two big key moments at Night of Champions? There were more moments too, but those are the ones we're focusing on here in terms of their particular story. There were some other little things that they kind of threw into the mix there. There's lots of stuff going into this. Let me know what you think. How's it going to play out? John Cena versus Cody Rhodes Part 2, the rematch at SummerSlam. Always appreciate your feedback. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and let me know your thoughts on what's next for Cody Rhodes and John Cena.